50 years of exhilaration is how Nissan describes the current example of its 370Z sports car. But what makes the ZCar such an icon to you and millions of fans around the world?
The answer is next on 0 to 60 TV. The 2020 Nissan 370Z's race car-inspired cockpit, classic fastback profile, and 332 raging ponies under that long aluminum hood are a bit of a throwback to the rear-drive sports cars of the 1960s and 70s.
On this edition of 0 to 60 TV by LeithCars.com, we're going to take you on a tour of the outgoing 6th generation ZCar. We'll pay a visit to a few of the ZCars that helped inspire the current design, and we'll take a look at its successor. The original Z debuted in Japan in 1969 as the Fairlady Z, before arriving stateside in 1970 as the Datsun 240Z. This first-generation ZCar was a rear-drive two-seater that cost around $3,600, but had the sexy good looks of the more expensive and exclusive Jaguar XKE. It was powered by a 2.4-liter single overhead cam 12-valve straight six, putting out a sprite 151 horsepower and made it to a 4-speed stick. But because of its slim 2,300-plus curb weight, the Z could be launched from 0 to 60 in just 7.8 seconds. Early on, the 240Z was also battle-tested in various motorsports triumphs by winning the 1971 East African Safari Rally and Sports Car Club of America C Production Championships in 1970 and 71. As the ZCar's engine displacement grew over the course of the first generation, so did the car's nomenclature. The 260Z debuted in 1974 with a larger 2.6-liter straight six, and the following year grew to 2.8 liters, becoming known as the Datsun 280Z. With 149 horsepower, the 280Z wasn't all that fast, but it could straighten out your favorite twisty road like a proper sports car should. And Nissan's first fuel-injected engine. Datsun created an additional GT-style model called the 2+2 by stretching the wheelbase and adding a tiny rear seat in the 260Z and 280Z during the same period. By the end of the 1970s, Datsun launched the 280ZX. You can see a good example of a period 280ZX in the debut episode of 0 to 60 TV, when we featured a 1981 model from the Raleigh Classic Car Auction. A turbocharged engine developing 180 horsepower came to the rescue in 1981, the same year the brand name Datsun was dropped in the U.S. in favor of the home company's name, Nissan. Just a side note, Nissan in Japanese is short for Made in the Land of the Rising Sun, with Ni meaning sun, as in sun in the sky, and San meaning made in. Nissan. The Generation 3 ZX debuted in 1984 with an angular, very digital dash-focused, kind of back-to-the-future vibe, and was christened the 300ZX. The inline-6 engine was now gone and replaced with a larger 3.0-liter V6, pumping out 160 horsepower, or when turbocharged, 200 horses were at your disposal. The only time the model's name carried over to an all-new generation was with the 1990 300ZX. This new car was lower and sleeker with rounded contours and flush-mounted headlights. The suspension was modernized too for true sports car handling and included Nissan's high-capacity actively controlled steering system, which allowed for some rear steering under certain conditions. Under the Z's hood, the new 300ZX packed a 4 valves per cylinder, double overhead cam 3-liter V6, good for creating an impressive 222 horsepower. The real street screamer, though, was the 300ZX twin turbo with its 300 horsepower output, Car and Driver clocked the twin-turbo Z at 5 seconds, 0 to 60, and it hit the quarter mile in 102 miles per hour. But unfortunately, the 300ZX was dropped from the U.S. after the 1996 model year. Sports cars, by this point, were becoming less important to car buyers, and SUVs began to dominate the roads. After several years of teasing fans with concept designs, a new century saw the return of Nissan's ZCar in 2003 in the form of the all-new 350Z, which shared its platform with the Infiniti G35 Sports Coupe. The sharing of platforms and major components, like the new 3.5-liter V6, allowed Nissan to offer its sports car at a base price of just under $27,000. Economies of scale meant that the new V6 could also be found in the Nissan line of midsize sedans and SUVs. But in the ZCar, it developed 287 horsepower through either a 6-speed manual or a 5-speed automatic. Nissan's in-house performance shop, Nissan Motorsports International, or NISMO, released its first souped-up model in 2007 in the form of the NISMO 350Z. Featuring some additional aero enhancements, larger wheels, tires, and brakes, the NISMO Z carried the same 306 horsepower V6 that you'd find in a regular Z, but the NISMO version was even more capable on twisty road courses like VIR. The current 6th generation car, known as the Nissan 370Z, was released back in 2009. Its smooth, rounded bodywork and catfish-style mouth treatment certainly help it stand out from most cars on the road. And its 3.7-liter, 332 horsepower V6 will send you to 60 miles per hour in just 4.9 seconds. The NISMO version delivers a 350 horsepower engine to your driveway. But regardless of power output, the Z's handling is superior to previous generations, with an asphalt-gripping 97 Gs on the skid pad. A limited 50th anniversary edition was made available in 2020 that included a special two-tone paint scheme that recalled the famous Brock Racing Enterprises, or BRE, race cars of the 70s.
Now, as you've seen, the Nissan ZCar has quite a storied history. And this deep blue pearl sport touring model is the culmination of 50 years of ZCar engineering and racing knowledge. Now, Derek Parker is going to show you just what makes this ZCar so special.
Thanks, Mark. Can tell you how excited I am today to go over the 2020 Nissan 370Z. So let's start off and see how exciting this car really is by looking under the hood. Now, what powers the Nissan 370Z is the 3.7-liter VQ V6 engine. You're going to see Nissan's patent-designed trapezoidal strut suspension support system. With that support being connected to the front struts, it's going to give you the added stiffness and rigidity when you're out there tracking up there at VIR. Midship displacement for this car literally puts the engine just behind the front wheels, which creates a 54 to 46 weight distribution. How beneficial that is in your driving experience is simply this: as you're approaching heavy stops, you got the weight of the engine over the front wheels that provide more added grip and braking response. However, during acceleration, the weight shifts a little bit to the back to create a 50-50 balance front to back, which is ideal. Again, you're out there tracking up there at VIR, you can see how the handling is going to definitely help in your driving experience. Also notice when Nissan put the brake fluid container in a compartment, isolating it from the heat of the engine coming out there, and you know that's a huge benefit. Don't want that brake fluid heated up unnecessarily. Nissan designed their engine with 2 intake ports. We're talking about cool air that's coming from underneath the vehicle, going to the engine from left and right sides of the intake. And we all know colder air means more power. Inside the 370Z, right away you see the magnesium pedal shifters, because this is equipped with the automatic 7-speed automatic transmission. Nissan equipped with the downshift synchro rev matching. What it does is sync the RPMs when downshifting, give a nice spirited engine sound. Up on the dashboard, you see Nissan's iconic 3-part display. Goes all the way back to the very first Z. The 3 pods includes engine temperature, voltage, and time. And what Nissan designed the dashboard is as a one-piece setup where it's always visible when adjusting in the tilt manner. Whether you go up and down, the steering wheel does not interfere with your gauge cluster. One thing the Nissan Z has always been known for is its comfort factor. It's actually an everyday driving sports car for anyone that enjoys the performance, appreciates the performance, but the comfort factor. The nice bolted seats goes all the way from your back to your side area here, and easy access to your controls. Now, if you're looking for that manual transmission, Nissan still offers it in a 6-speed, close ratio gearbox. So driving along and getting in those curves hard, when you're downshifting, it'll tweak that RPMs in the engine, give you a nice sporty, exhilarating feel coming out the curve. You got your RPMs at the optimum position to give you an excellent acceleration going forward. Now that you got the key to the Z, Mark, what's the rest of the story?
That question was happily answered in September when Nissan's CEO released images of what the company calls the Nissan Z Proto, or prototype.
The design you see here from Nissan is claimed to be pretty close to the final production, and not just a concept. It's a design theme that has a strong resemblance to the original 240Z and will be powered by a twin turbocharged 3-liter V6. But unlike some of today's other sports cars on the market, the new 400Z will still offer a manual transmission, in addition to an available automatic. And as you know, the mark of any great sports car is the ability to row your own gears.
I'm going to thank Auto Park Chrysler Jeep for providing our Nissan 370Z, and Derek Parker of Leith Nissan in Cary for contributing to this episode. If you got any comments about Nissan ZCar, just post them below. I'm Mark Arson. Thank you for watching 0 to 60 TV by LeithCars.com.